Hey, everybody. I love coming into this room because I never know who I'm going to find. I had a name that I didn't understand. I didn't know if it was going to be a woman or a man. I had no idea what nationality it was. I had no idea where this person was from. And I showed up and look at this beautiful person that I saw sitting in front of me here. We've had a couple of minutes to just get to know each other very tangentially in the green room. But I really know nothing about her. And the beauty of this show to me is where two people who don't know each other at all have the courage to take a few minutes to sit in a room together virtually and just talk to each other. I wonder what would happen to our world today if strangers just sat with each other and listened to each other. I wonder if strangers would become friends. I wonder if friends would choose to have wars with each other or choose to create peace together. I wonder if we can't change the nature of the whole world we live in simply by having conversations with people we never met before and being willing to listen to them say what they say. I have no idea if the person here with me believes like that, doesn't believe like that, but we're going to find out right now. I'm going to introduce you, along with myself, to Vady. Vady, welcome to 50 Conversations with 50 Strangers. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, Danny. I am doing very well, and I'm happy to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. Will you take a moment and just share with us who you are and what's important to you?
Okay. It would be difficult, perhaps, to share who I am, but I can tell you give you some details about me.
Perfect.
I grew up I was born in Austria, grew up in Argentina. I spent some years in the Amazon, and I moved to Canada sometime around when I was about 25 years old, because of some extreme set of circumstances in life. I lost my husband and children when I was in my 20s, in my early 20s. And I ended up with, it had affected me physically also because I had an accident. And I spent 2 years without being able to communicate or to speak. And I lost the language center in my brain. And I relearned to use other areas of the brain to communicate.
Wow.
Once I started, it was so difficult I understood the thoughts and to the concepts I could read, but I could not express myself. So I decided to go on a quest to relearn to speak. And so I decided to go back to university. I had already had a doctorate by that time. And I started again, another master's, another doctorate, anything I could do in order to become better at the art of communicating. And it is still a bit difficult. And sometimes I use one word instead of another and simplify. You see, this is kind of funny, but when you look at immigrants who cannot speak English very well, or it's a second language, and they would say, would you like an ice cream? And they say, I hate ice cream.
Yeah.
I love ice cream, I hate ice cream. And it sounds like they're so extreme in their in the use of their language. But the nuances of language, of another language, or a second language, or a third language, are difficult on people. And unless you have milked that language since you're a baby, it takes time to understand that perhaps all you had to say, no, I mean, I do not necessarily like this type of ice cream, but I like that one. I'm not fond of this taste, but it takes time. Anyway.
Yeah. Well,
At the moment, this has been a hobby of mine. I am dedicated to the medicine of longevity, epigenetics, to some extent exploring, and I had explored for many years, biohacking. Not extreme one, but I'm very well versed in that area.
Wow. Wow. What a fascinating human being you are.
Okay,
And what
thank you.
and what a story you have to tell. And how beautiful that so many people would have gone through what you went through and just been told they'll never speak or they won't be able to speak, and would have taken that diagnosis and accepted it. What gave you the power? What gave you the dignity to say, no, I'm going to find another way to voice what I believe?
You know, for many years, I felt that Canada, I was a dog, a leashed dog in Canada, and the territory of Canada was my backyard,
Yeah.
so to speak, and I couldn't move, out of the country. And I felt terrible because I didn't have my family, but I wanted to go back to where they were one day. I thought and played with the idea of suicide many a time because I wanted to be on the other side. There's where everything I loved was. However, I was afraid that if I would commit suicide, I would end up perhaps in a place where my babies would not be. And it kept me here on Earth.
Wow.
And I always think that what helped me the most is that I easily fell in love with people and nature and what is, even animals.
Yeah. Beautiful.
There, at the very beginning, I didn't even have money to be able to keep a pet. So I had a warm pet. I've got a spider pet, and they do recognize it.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I can attest to that.
Yeah. Wow. So for those of you who are listening, I normally pause right around here and ask you to just pause yourself. When you hear Vady's story, what do you hear? And what does it allow you to now have that you maybe thought you couldn't have before? When you feel sorry for yourself, what do you feel now? When you see this courageous woman whose family's been taken from her, who thought to possibly commit suicide, but was worried the place that she would go to would be a place where her babies were not. And so why should she do that? Because she's already in a place where they're not. And she trained herself and taught herself to come back and get another doctorate. Like, can you imagine the strength that's there? And that if we would have never taken the time to just put this offer out to say, does someone want to have a conversation with a stranger? My life would be less rich for not knowing Vady than it is now for just knowing her for a few moments. I want to thank you for how much you inspire me already.
You're welcome. I must say that it's not easy, and sometimes the struggle to get somewhere, or the search of that perfecting yourself or recover some of the what you call normal in the world that existed before this one, comes perhaps not always from a right place. When I look back, I think, wow, I worked all my life, from cleaning houses to cleaning toilets to being a CEO or to different corporations. I went through everything. At the same time, I could write a book, or write dissertations, studied many, I had several degrees. I used them as a way of keeping me away from thinking,
Yeah.
from being not busy. I could not do drugs because my body couldn't handle them, not because I didn't want to. I wanted to drink, but my body doesn't handle it well, so I couldn't. So I had to find the drug of that. My drug of choice was to study and to keep myself busy. Hmm? Eventually, I thought, oh my God, I achieved so much. But the effort,
Yeah.
the difficulty, the difficulties I put myself through
Yeah.
because I was trying to become the one that I was before, not
Yeah.
seeing that who I had become was also okay. However, I had to go back and forward, back again to realize that, hey, you know what? I didn't need any of it.
Mm.
I would have gotten here anyway.
Wow. Vady, when I listen to you tell the story, it reminds me there's a character in my book, The Mosaic. It's about a boy who loses his parents 2 years apart on the same day.
Yes,
And when
read it.
he goes out and search for that, and the character that comes up to me right now is the street artist. And people come to the street artist with tons of broken pieces of glass because he makes mosaics. And they empty the glass out in front of him, and he receives all the pieces of glass. And Mo, after having an experience, comes and wakes up by the street artist. And the street artist says to him, Mo, what do you see when you see all of these broken pieces? Most people only see broken pieces. And Mo says, I'm sad to say I see broken pieces too. What do you see? And the street artist says to him, Mo, broken pieces tell the most amazing stories because they remember back to who they used to be. And they don't have any idea yet how, when we piece them together in these mosaics, how the artistry that we create together using them as using the pieces that they all make up is so much more beautiful than anything that they once were. And I believe somehow, in hearing your story and hearing you speak, that your beauty hasn't even really been touched yet. That there's a beauty that you knew from before, where you were so powerful, where you were so knowledgeable and so wise and so advanced, and you had this beautiful family. And now you became like a broken piece. You lost all the pieces that are around you that kept you whole, and you yearn to go back to that place where you were.
I did.
I I
I
want to
did.
invite you
And I read.
now, and I so understand why would you not. And I want to invite you even now in this moment, whereas you're still moving forward, and you've moved forward, and you've already accomplished so much, to walk rather than go back, to walk forward to what's that new space that you hold. What's that place where your beauty will be seen as the perfect piece that it is that fits into this beautiful mosaic of a new life with other people around to support you and help you as you support and help them. I feel it so much as you're talking. I don't mean to say anything, but I just wanted to share what I was feeling because it was so strong. Because you are a beautiful, beautiful woman in every in every way that that word's intended.
Thank you. I, you see, in order to that, for that beauty, the beauty that every human has inside, for it to shine, we must become or become aware of it
Yes.
and value it ourselves. It's like when I was in total poverty, I was thinking, oh my God, if I could have this house, if I could visit this country, if I could go to such and such university, if I could dress such and such, brand, etc. It was all far from, it was not affordable to me.
Right.
Uh, but it so occurred that life allowed me to do all of that. I got jobs that moved me around. I worked in war-torn countries. I visited some of the most expensive and stayed in some of the most expensive resorts and hotels because my workplace was paying
Right.
for it, etc., etc. And I did it. As after doing everything, I realized that nothing made me happy as being in my backyard under that tree when I was 5 years old, under the sun,
Yeah.
eating a cheese sandwich,
Hmm.
feeling like I conquered the world.
Yeah.
And you felt the world was in your hands every single minute. If I don't know if everybody has a memory of when they were children or just
Yeah.
teenagers, like 13 to 16, uh, how we look at the world and we have so many dreams. And the world is like, it's options, it's possibilities, it's
Yeah.
opportunities. And you're playing with your friends, but everything is exciting and we are so full of life. And as years go by, we learn limitations, mm, whether it's right or wrong, how we get there. I think, I suspect, I would say, people help us
Yeah.
learn those limitations. Circumstances help us too, right?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
become more humble. Uh, but at the same time, we lose that innovation, that creativity, or that spark than you have when you're a child. I suspect that the gods allow us only to be here for 80 to 100 years or so that we can go back and start again with that glorious zest for life and energy. And
I have some years on you. So I want to share with you that as I've gotten older, it's like a circle.
this is
And I've come back to the child. And I've come back to those things that I thought were never possible anymore, have suddenly become infinitely possible. And
yes,
that you come around to the same sort of understanding, but and all the pains that you go through, all the sufferings, all the things that have happened, just bring you back to that joy of just being able to be a child again and experience it as an older man for me now. But
yeah,
still, the experience of the experience is the same.
yeah.
Let me ask you something. Let me ask you something. Because you spoke so eloquently about being under that tree at 5 years old and having that cheese sandwich and how happy that made you. Vady, what makes you happy now?
Same.
Same thing.
Sometimes I'm in my backyard with my cats, and it's sometimes observing them. And when you see an animal in a position, when they position their body in a way to express that they are happy, that they're enjoying themselves, that they're
Yeah.
really enjoying themselves, and all your pleasure derives from seeing them being that happy, expressing that
I
joy,
love that.
and nothing else. And you need nothing else.
Love that.
Life is chasing for some wild something, only to realize that we had it all the time, and that we
Oh,
can we can be there any moment, any moment.
uh,
And sometimes when you are there, the ecstasy is so giant that you have tears, and it seems almost as if it's painful because real joy and peace and love, it has a nostalgia to. I don't know how to express it. I lack the vocabulary,
you don't
but
lack the vocabulary. You're expressing it beautifully.
it's something so phenomenal that you're teary,
Yeah.
teary, loving everything and everyone. Of course, I wish we could always keep there, right?
That's
And
right.
go becoming the monsters who we are in
Absolutely.
our private lives. But the idea is that the more you access it, the easier it is to access it. So when I hear people saying, "Oh, I'm searching for happiness" or whatnot, and I'm thinking, "Oh, wow, then it's done," because throughout life, I always found happiness in the in between
Hmm.
spaces, in the
Uh,
moment between rushing to do something and you have a minute and you stop and you look at the house in front of your home and you're thinking, oh, look at the tree. And the tree is beautiful. And the lawn is beautiful. And the white flower is beautiful. And then you realize that you probably are slightly crazy because you find beauty where most people
don't even see it.
no,
Yeah.
no.
Because most people don't stop to see the spaces. They only see the things that the spaces separate. Let me ask you a couple of
No, but
questions.
you didn't know that, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
only learn eventually in life that
yeah.
others are not in the same spaces that you are.
I
I thought
love,
everybody
I,
saw it.
I love that in the mosaic because what I realized is the words of the mosaic tell a beautiful story, but it's the spaces between the words that tell the power, that have the power and the transformative nature of it.
It's the spaces between what?
It's the spaces between the words of the story of the mosaic that hold the
Okay.
secret to the transformation of what the book really has to offer. So I invite people to read it and read the space and listen to the spaces between it as well. Let's go into a lightning round. I'm going to ask you quick questions and you can give me quick or slow answers, however you decide. This is your time. Are you a dog person or a cat person?
Mostly cat person.
Yeah, I thought that because you said you had your cat there with you. Um, Coffee or tea?
Mate.
Mate. Okay, so you're a
I
true
don't know if,
Argentine. You're a true. My wife's from Argentina, so I know mate very well.
oh, you know mate?
Yeah,
My
my.
wife is from Argentina, which is the most phenomenal thing.
You,
Mate is more than just mate, it's a ritual, it's like the peace pipe for the natives here in North
yes,
America. There is a kind of pipe that you are sharing with each other, and people gather together around that mate. Mate is a tool to create friendships,
yes.
to invite people and
I,
gather.
I love that. You and she have to get together and talk about it.
Oh, yes.
Ah, um, are you a person that is in the box or out of the box?
Oh, I think it all depends. Depends on the moment. Depends on the frame of mind or the mindset. But
Where do you live most of the time?
outside the box for sure, or something that is totally. If I define the box as the most accepted uh, patterns and mind frames by society, then mostly outside.
Yeah.
I think I shock a person or two every so often.
So was your desire to say both? Was that most people think that it's more acceptable to be in the box? Was your desire to say both, to say, well, I'm really out of the box, but I want people to think that I'm not too far out of the box, so I'll say I'm in both.
I didn't think about that way. I just thought that it was circumstantial. Sometimes you're at work and you cannot think outside the box because it's a dualistic world
Yeah.
with consequences that can be pretty serious. And even though you might be more inclined to innovate
Yeah.
and more inclined to focus on solutions that others have not thought about. And I'm usually prone to, when people say this cannot be done, I say yes, it can be done, and I will go. I have to go until it gets done. There is a way. There is a way. There is a way.
Yeah.
I just wanted, before we finish this, I wanted to say something. When I lived with the natives in the Amazon,
Yep.
and I lived several years there.
By the way, that would be an out of the box person. Not many people in the box live with the natives. Oh, I got you.
I went there for 2 weeks. I never left.
Yeah.
But they've had ways, call it a spell, call it a strategy, call it a tool, a kind of ritual, whereby they could hack the universe. Mm-hmm. When they wanted something, they could just make it happen. And I used to think, why don't they want houses and buildings and this and that? But they were under the tree, having the cheese sandwich, but I didn't understand that.
Yeah, totally. I love that.
What was surprising to me is that we're always told that we have to think positive, that we have to go through all these meditations, that we have to connect the brain, the heart, the this, and that. They have none of that. Perhaps they are completely and utterly connected. I don't know. But they do carry certain rituals, and I have seen disappear completely.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
And many other changes, right?
I love that. I love it. And thank you for sharing that so we didn't get out without you saying that, because it's beautiful. Both of these are important, but which one of them is most important for you right now? Is it important for you to have a platform for you to be able to speak your truth? Or is it important for you right now to create a platform for other people to speak their truth and you to listen to them speak their truth?
I think the second choice feels to me as the most important. However, the only thing I sometimes struggle with is, do people know what their truth is?
Mm-hmm.
And how long does it take for people sometimes to speak their truth? Not because they're lying, and that goes for me too, right? And you and everybody else. We can speak our truth, and our truth might change in a split of a second. Then we become even more aware of other layers, and our truth changes. And sometimes you would hear the truth of people, you're listening to their truth. And I'm just wondering if just a small shift could also change the complete truth in a manner that will create beauty and joy and peace and love, where it has been defined in a person or a who that has been defined as lacking it.
Yeah. I find that, I don't know what you think about this, is that the more I give people the space to say whatever it is they want to say, there doesn't need to be any fixing or slight adjustment. They come to realize on their own, just by speaking it and hearing their voice say it. I'll have people say to me, "This is what I believe," and I'll listen to them, and they'll say, "Well, hold on, that's not. I actually believe a little bit differently than that." And I say, "Okay, what do you believe?" And then they'll say what they believe, and they'll say, "Well, that's not quite it yet either." And they'll literally watch themselves adapt to what they actually believe as they feel safer and safer sharing with me what they believe. It's beautiful to watch.
Yes.
I don't
Perhaps
think we
I'm not
need.
as good of a listener as you
Oh
are.
no, you're a good listener. I'm sure you are. But I think, it comes from not feeling like we have to fix people or change people or have them be saying the real truth. They'll say their truth as it is, and over time they'll come to their own truth. If we just listen to people and people feel comfortable speaking with us, then it's amazing what happens. That's why I call this a magic room, because in this room people say things they've never said before, or have experiences they haven't had before. Sometimes not. But it's beautiful to watch the softening of a person the more we speak, the more they speak, because I mainly speak so that they feel comfortable, that they're not just talking to themselves. Let me ask you another question.
Yes.
Do you feel like you fit in, or do you feel like you're different?
I feel different.
Yeah. Do you feel like you operate from your head or your heart?
Oh my God. Sometimes it gets me into trouble. Mostly. But I still go for it, and then I let it be. Uh, sometimes, and I should correct that. Every time I see myself in a situation that perhaps I could call as not something I would have wanted to live, not something that turned out in the manner I would have wanted it to turn out, and it played itself in ways that I didn't even think it would play itself, and exactly the opposite of what I would have wanted.
Yeah.
And I'm like a tsunami, and I'm rolling around, holding on. And when I look back, even the week after, I've got the results I wanted to have.
Yeah.
Everything I wanted, I've got. Even though played itself that bad.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I have a feeling we're supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Perhaps I don't know why, but
May,
or maybe all the paths lead to Rome. I don't know, but
Maybe we're already there and we just don't realize it.
mm,
Maybe we're
mm,
not supposed to be anywhere. We're just already there, but we make all this
maybe
confusion.
we're always there.
We're always there, and we just make this confusion thinking that we have to get there somehow. But we're there, and we just have to go through the actions to make us believe we had to take this path to get where we've always been.
Uh, Most
Maybe, I
likely,
don't know.
no. I mean, I think you're onto something. I It is said that we're here to learn neutrality, to learn unattachment,
Yeah.
and to find peace, and to love, not love the puppy, the kitten, those that are nice to us are so easy to love. Is love the unlovable? Because who are we to decide that it is unlovable?
Yeah.
And if love changes, okay, if love changes, let's suppose we have someone who's a criminal or have killed children or something that we do not appreciate and we consider them the monsters of society. And every time we talk about this person, we make them wrong, we make them awful. I'm not saying that what they have done is right.
Right.
Very few times, and I think few people probably stop and send the person love,
Yeah.
not because you want to love what they did and what not, but how do we change them?
Yeah.
How do we inspire them to change through judgment
Can I
by
share? Can I
finding
share?
nothing positive about them?
Can I share a story with you?
Yeah,
I say
absolutely.
it. I say it on almost every talk that I give. It's a story about my daughter. I've sat with some of the wealthiest people, some of the smartest people, some of the best leaders, some of the best motivational people, some of the most charismatic and religious leaders. And the person that I still learn the most from is my 30-year-old developmentally delayed daughter. And I'll tell you why. My daughter doesn't speak like you and I speak. She can't. When she speaks, people don't understand her. But she counts on me to understand her because I do understand her most of the time.
Mm.
And so she'll say something, and I don't know, I'll just feel her. I'll feel the vibe from her. I'll get it when people don't get it. But Vady, there's sometimes that I don't get it. And when I don't get it, she'll raise her voice and say it louder. And when she raises her voice and says it louder, most of the times I still don't get it. Occasionally, she'll say the word a little bit differently, and I'll understand it. I'll go, oh, that's what she's saying. But it wasn't because of the volume. It's just because she changed her pronunciation to scream it or
Mm.
yell it.
Yeah.
She said it slightly different. But most times that's not what happens. Most times I still don't understand her. And when I still don't understand her, she'll decide she has to have a tantrum. And it won't be necessarily right after she's yelled it. It could be hours later or a day later. She'll just be so frustrated that I didn't understand her. We could be in the middle. We could be guests at a person's home or at a dinner table in a restaurant. We could be out for a walk, or we could be driving in the car. We could be walking along the beach, or we could be standing in a shop, and she'll just throw a tantrum. And when the tantrum doesn't work and I still don't understand her, she'll come running at me and try and rip my shirt or bite me because she wants to attack me. This went on for a long time, Vadi, for about 15 years. And I think I'm smart. I think I'm sensitive. I think I try and understand people. I just couldn't get it. And finally, one day, in the midst of my complete desperation, I looked at her and I said, Elisa, I give up. I just can't understand you. I've been trying so hard to understand your words, but I don't get your words. Can you talk to me without your words? Will you try and tell me what you want to say without using words? And her rage stopped and she got this big smile on her face. And in perfect English, she said, I am, Daddy. I said, what the heck do you mean you are, Daddy? What do you mean? You've been talking to me without words and I just haven't gotten it? I said, how are you doing that? And she took her finger and pointed to the side of her head. And I said, you little son of a gun, have you been putting thoughts into my head? And she started to laugh uncontrollably, as if all the frustration of trying to communicate for all these years was now off her back. And she had gotten through to me. I had heard her. And I could now hear her through her telepathy, not through her words. And from that point, she never yelled, she never tantrumed, and she never attacked ever again. Now, Vady, if that would have been the story, it would have filled my heart because now I have a relationship with my daughter that I could never have had before. But I thought, why don't I take this practice into boardrooms, into hospitals, into prisons, into shelters, into homeless places, into all sorts of different, into schools,
Mm-hmm.
and see what happens into business offices and businesses. And I watched as people in every walk of life followed the same exact pattern my daughter Elisa did. When they said something that they didn't get heard, they yelled. When
Yes.
they yelled and then they didn't get heard, they created a tantrum or a scene. And they created havoc, they created chaos, they created disruption. When their disruption didn't work, they tried to destroy something. And so those people that you were speaking about that were trying to hurt people, I think if we would have just figured out a way to listen to them, if we would have found a way to take our time, to take the time to just hear what they wanted to say, they would never have needed to yell, tantrum, or attack. What do you
Most
think about that?
most likely, in most cases, I believe.
Yeah,
In most cases, I believe.
yeah,
Probably. I think that as a society, as we evolve, hmm, I do believe that we will learn to communicate. We already communicate in other ways,
yes,
in those ways, that sometimes I have had exercises where you can tell someone, we tell people lies. We
yeah,
know that we're saying a lie. We have been asked to lie. And like, for example, you, me, and your wife, and the three of us will be lying to each other. We know that we're lying, but we don't know each other. And your wife is also
right,
unknown to you. And after you have lied 3 times, for example, about who you are and what you do for a living, you would say it, and then I will say it, and then she will say it, and we will go 3 rounds of lies. And then we will gossip. Let's suppose the 2 of us, we will gossip about what we think with your wife listening in,
right.
right?
I love it.
Who we think that your wife is, and what we think that she does for a living, because that's what we were talking about. And usually we are spot on
Love it.
their dreams of what they always wanted to do. Sometimes if they manage to do what they always wanted to do, we find that. If not, we find their real dream about what they wanted to do. But whatever we decide is so close
Yep.
to who they are. So because your lies are still telling us your truth.
Yeah.
Or
Love
if it's not your lies, it's your body or gestures. We can't lie. That's what they say. You cannot
I
lie.
love it. I love it.
You cannot lie. Who we are, it's always present to the other.
Yeah. Vady, we got to start to wind down. So I have a couple more questions for you. Do you believe that just like we speak to each other and we can listen to each other, that the world around us speaks to us, that our bodies speak to us, that our workplace speaks to us, that Mother Nature and the environment is speaking to us? Do you believe that situations speak to us?
I do believe all of everything, including
Yeah,
the trees and animals and objects
I
and
love that.
people. I have finished working some, or stopped working in some organizations, and as I leave, I have this terrible, I could say, there is a lot of love, but it was never expressed.
Yeah,
There is a lot of feeling and emotion, and it's not supposed to be a place of emotion.
Yeah.
But there is so much beauty that one would have wanted to express, and the space was not created for it.
Yeah.
And even at times when you stand close to someone and you start saying, blah blah blah, and you start talking about, the other person might even get to feel uncomfortable,
Yeah.
even if it is a woman to woman, or
Yeah.
so it's complicated, but
Totally.
yes, we still can speak to each other, and there are some of us, perhaps, or perhaps all of us, to some level, understand the language,
So we
or
gotta
in
so
different manner.
we gotta wind down. What I want to know is two more questions, 1 minute answer each.
Okay.
What do you think the world is trying to say to us right now? We have COVID-19. We have race riots. We're on the backs of the Me Too movement. We have upheavals where people aren't treating each other very well. What do you think the world's trying to say to us? We have global warming. What do you think the world's trying to say?
We have to stop and realize that they are us, we're them, they're us. It's complicated because of the material world and the duality, but the moment we stop
Yeah.
and take into consideration that they're part of us, and they might be manifestations of us in other ways and whatnot. The moment we are present to that, I think the solutions will come from a very different place
I love
than
that.
that of me helping you, Danny.
Yeah.
I'm helping you. You need something. You're here with your Me Too or your, I don't know, too hot
Black
a
life.
country and whatnot, and I have to help you come to my backyard because you cannot live in yours. I am helping you, when perhaps bringing you into my backyard would change exponentially what would happen to me and my
Love it.
future and the course of my whole life. Are we open to that?
I
And if we
love that. I love that.
they say where we focus, we create.
Yep.
If we were to help and move towards each other in that manner, perhaps the creation will be one that will shock us all.
So let me ask you now more specifically, because I love your answer to what the world's saying to us. What's the world saying to you right now?
Well, right now, I'm living a time of magic for some reason. It's a present of the gods. So lately, I am in a state of happiness all the time. I think the world is telling me you're perfect. Not in a way that
Right.
I'm perfect over something else.
Right.
You're perfect now because I can feel it now. I
Yep.
spent my life perfecting myself,
I love
and
that.
it took this long, pain, tears, etc., to get here. I got here. The world is screaming it at me, and I'm now listening. And for once, I'm listening and I'm taking it in.
I love that.
I'm taking it in.
30 seconds. You don't have long because we got to wrap up.
I'm Latino.
What if you had 30 seconds to tell the world something? What would you want to say to it?
Love. I know it sounds like, but love. If you have nothing else that you can do, even for the animal that you see suffering in the street, send love, not pity. Send love.
Fabulous.
I believe you changed something. Yes.
Vady, will you send me? I love that. And we got to go because I have another call coming right in. Would you send me your links to anything? Do you have a website? Would you send me links to your website? Would you send me social media links that you have? Anything that you have as to how people can get in touch with you, so that we
Okay.
can get, so that we
I
can
don't
invite.
have much because I'm a withdrawn person, but I'll send you something.
Right, but whatever you have, we have an email, so that if people have fallen in love with you, like I have here in this conversation, that they have a way to get in touch with you.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Because what I want to thank you so much for coming. I want to thank those of you who have listened to these. To thank you for listening. If you like this episode, please share it with your friends. And what could be more beautiful than strangers coming together and having this type of conversation. We've been told our whole life, don't talk to strangers.
I know.
We've been taught our whole life that we can't, it's going to take a certain amount of time for us to trust one another, to be able to open up. But look how Vady opened up in this conversation. Look at what she spoke about. Look at the things that she said to you. Look at the things that I said to her. Look at the things that, look at the harmony and the love that we just held the space for each other to be ourselves in. Take a risk. Do that with another person. All of us want to be loved and accepted, listened to and heard, acknowledged and validated. You have the power to do that. Don't live in life as a stranger. Invite people into your heart and allow them the space to say who they are. Real quickly, before we go, there's my person coming. Real quickly, before we go, is there one quick thing you want to just say? Or have you said it all?
I've said it all.
Okay.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, Danny.
It is my honor, and I hope this will not be the end. I hope this is the beginning of our conversations together. Thank you so
And I
much.
hope you try mate. That's
Okay, we do. I have my wife makes it for me. We have it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay.
Welcome.
So you'll send me what you have, and send me also a headshot of you. Okay.
A headshot.
Yeah. So I can put. Okay.
Okay.
Big love. Thank you so much. Ciao.